The studio lights burned bright as Meghan Markle took her seat across from Norah O'Donnell on CBS this morning. It was supposed to be a calm, measured interview, a chance for Meghan to promote her new charity initiative and show a softer side to the public after months of scrutiny. But from the moment she sat down, tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Norah, known for her no-nonsense interviewing style, smiled politely, but her eyes betrayed a certain steel. "Good morning, Meghan," she began smoothly. "Thank you for joining us. I understand this interview was your team's idea, correct?" Meghan gave a poised smile, nodding slightly. "Yes, that's right. I thought it was important to speak directly to people about the misconceptions that have been circulating." "Misconceptions," Norah repeated, glancing briefly at her notes. "There have been quite a few of those, haven't there?" Meghan's smile stiffened. She was used to the tough questions, but she could already sense where this was going. Norah leaned in. "Let's start with your recent comments about the royal family. You said in an interview last month that you felt silenced, and that the institution failed to protect you. Some have argued that those statements contradict earlier interviews where you said you wanted to move on. Which is it?" The audience behind the cameras shifted. Meghan inhaled deeply before responding. "Norah, I think people misunderstand what it's like to live inside that world. I wasn't allowed to speak freely, and when I did, it was often twisted." Norah's brow arched slightly. "So you're saying the media twisted your words?" "Yes," Meghan said firmly. "Constantly. And it's exhausting." Norah paused for a moment, flipping through her papers. "You mentioned exhaustion, but critics point out that you've continued to do interviews, podcasts, and documentaries. Some might say that doesn't look like someone who wants privacy." The studio air grew colder. Meghan's polished tone faltered slightly. "Wanting privacy doesn't mean living in hiding," she shot back. "It means choosing what parts of your life to share." "That's fair," Norah replied evenly, "but do you think repeatedly revisiting royal matters, sometimes very personal ones, helps that goal?" A flicker of irritation crossed Meghan's face. "I'm not revisiting anything," she said, her voice rising slightly. "I'm clarifying. There's a difference." Norah didn't blink. "But when you accuse members of your husband's family of racism on international television, people tend to remember." There was a collective intake of breath from the audience. Meghan froze, her hands clasping tightly in her lap. "I never named anyone," she said sharply. "And it's deeply unfair to keep suggesting otherwise." Norah's tone softened slightly but remained firm. "Understood. But surely, you realize how that comment changed global perception of the monarchy. Do you ever regret saying it?" Meghan's lips parted, but no words came out immediately. For the first time, her composure cracked. She blinked rapidly, searching for the right response. "Regret," she repeated quietly. "No. I regret the pain I felt. I regret the lies told about me. But telling my truth was necessary." Norah nodded slowly. "So, you stand by everything you've said?" "I do," Meghan said, chin lifted defiantly. "Even if it hurt your husband's family." "That's not fair," Meghan snapped. "I was hurt first." The silence that followed was deafening. Norah maintained her professional calm, but Meghan's frustration was now fully visible. The control she usually held during interviews was slipping. Cameras zoomed in on her tense expression, capturing every flash of anger. Norah glanced at the monitor before her. "Meghan, one final question before we take a break. You've spoken about compassion and forgiveness many times. If Prince Charles, or the Princess of Wales, called you tomorrow to make peace, would you answer?" The question hit like a thunderclap. Meghan froze again, her jaw clenched, and she exhaled slowly. "That's a very personal question, Norah," she said carefully. "But forgiveness is earned, so that's a no." Norah pressed. Meghan hesitated, her face reddening slightly. "I think we're done here," she said abruptly. The crew exchanged startled glances. Norah, composed as ever, leaned back in her chair. "Are you saying you want to end the interview?" Meghan stood up, her microphone still attached. "I agreed to a conversation, not an interrogation," she said coldly. "I've said what I needed to say." The producers tried to intervene off camera, whispering frantically, but Meghan had already pulled off her mic. "Thank you," she said curtly, before walking off the stage. Norah turned to the camera, visibly restraining her surprise. "Well," she said with a professional smile, "we'll be right back after this short break." The broadcast cut to commercials, but social media had already exploded. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation went viral. Meghan Markle storms off CBS interview. Norah O'Donnell puts Meghan on the spot. Awkward TV moment turns disastrous. Backstage, Meghan sat in her dressing room, staring blankly at her reflection. Her team hovered nervously nearby. "You did fine," one assistant said softly, but Meghan's mind was elsewhere. For the first time in a long while, she felt exposed, not as a duchess or public figure, but as a woman caught between pride and pain, truth and perception. And out there, beyond the studio walls, the world had already taken sides once again. The moment Meghan's interview ended, CBS producers were thrown into chaos. Phones were ringing off the hook, social media feeds were exploding, and Norah O'Donnell's team was being flooded with both praise and outrage. Some called Norah fearless. Others accused her of ambushing Meghan. Meanwhile, Meghan sat quietly in her dressing room, staring at the half-empty cup of tea on the table. The steam had long faded. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman who looked composed on the outside but hollow within. Her publicist, Diana, cautiously approached her. "Meghan," she began softly, "the clip's already viral. We can still shape the narrative if we respond fast." Meghan blinked slowly, trying to steady her breathing. "Shape the narrative," she murmured. "That's all I've done for years, Diana. And every time, it still gets twisted." Diana frowned. "People are already saying you walked out because Norah exposed you." "I walked out," Meghan interrupted sharply, "because I was disrespected." She stood, pacing the small room. "I gave them my time, my story, my heart, and she turned it into an interrogation. I'm tired of being everyone's headline." Diana exchanged a glance with one of the assistants. "Then maybe we don't respond right away," she suggested gently. "Let the storm pass before we issue a statement." Meghan didn't reply. Instead, she turned toward the window. The Los Angeles skyline glittered under the afternoon sun, distant and indifferent. Somewhere out there, millions were already replaying her words, analyzing her tone, judging her every expression. Across town, Norah O'Donnell's newsroom was buzzing. Her producer, Mark, rushed over, eyes wide with excitement. "Norah, the segment's trending #1 worldwide. Ratings are through the roof." Norah exhaled deeply, removing her earpiece. "That's not exactly what I wanted," she said quietly. Mark frowned. "You didn't do anything wrong. You asked fair questions." "I know," Norah said. "But I didn't expect her to walk out." She leaned back in her chair, replaying the moment in her mind. Meghan's anger, the sudden silence, the walk-off that left everyone stunned. It wasn't her goal to humiliate anyone, but journalism wasn't about comfort. It was about truth. Still, Norah couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just stepped into something much bigger than an interview. By evening, the internet was ablaze. Hashtags like #Meghan vs Norah, #Royal Meltdown, and #CBS Clash dominated every platform. Commentators dissected every second of the footage. Some sided with Norah, calling her a professional holding Meghan accountable. Others accused her of gaslighting and trying to trap a woman who's been through enough. That night, Meghan's husband, Prince Harry, found her sitting quietly on their patio, wrapped in a shawl. He approached cautiously. "It's all over the news," he said softly. "I know," Meghan replied without turning. He sat beside her. "You did what you felt was right." She looked at him then, eyes glistening. "Did I? Or did I just prove everyone right, that I can't handle a little pressure?" Harry reached for her hand. "You've been under pressure since the day we met. You don't have to prove anything to anyone." "But I keep trying," she whispered. "And every time, it backfires." The crickets chirped in the background as silence settled between them. The next morning, Norah was invited to speak on a media ethics panel. She arrived to a storm of cameras and shouted questions. "Norah, did you go too far? Do you plan to apologize to Meghan Markle? Was it a setup?" She kept her expression calm and professional. "No comment," she said simply, walking past the flashing lights. During the panel, one journalist asked her point blank, "Do you believe Meghan Markle was humiliated?" Norah paused, choosing her words carefully. "I don't believe in humiliating anyone," she said. "But journalism isn't about comfort, it's about accountability. Meghan has built her brand around truth-telling. I asked her to stand by that truth. The audience murmured approvingly. Meanwhile, at home, Meghan's phone buzzed with hundreds of messages, some hateful, others sympathetic. Among them was one from an unexpected sender, Oprah Winfrey. "Call me when you're ready. The world's watching, but that doesn't mean you've lost your voice." Meghan read the message twice, her lips trembling slightly. She remembered the last time she sat with Oprah, how she had felt powerful, free, understood. But this time felt different. This time, the world wasn't shocked, it was divided. Later that day, she finally opened her social media account and posted a short statement. Greater than, sometimes, speaking your truth means walking away from conversations that refuse to listen. I will always choose dignity over drama. The post racked up millions of likes in minutes. But in the comments, the debate raged on. That evening, CBS This Morning aired a brief follow-up. Norah, calm and collected as ever, addressed the controversy. Our interview with Meghan Markle has sparked strong reactions. While we respect her decision to leave, our intention was never to embarrass or provoke her. We wish her well. The camera lingered on Norah's composed face before cutting to the next segment. Back in Montecito, Meghan watched that clip in silence. She could feel the knot in her chest loosen, just a little. Norah hadn't mocked her. She hadn't gloated. For the first time since yesterday, Meghan felt a faint sense of relief. Still, as she turned off the TV, she whispered to herself, this isn't over. Because Meghan knew that the headlines, the think pieces, and the talk shows would keep dissecting this moment for weeks. But she also knew something else. Every storm eventually passes, and every humiliation can become power when handled with grace. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and walked to her study. The light of her laptop glowed softly on her face as she began to type. Her next move would not be a defense. It would be a story, her own, told on her terms.